Right. I am just kind of getting us started here. Mark, it appears that I'm somehow logged in um, as an attendee also. I don't know how that works, but that's interesting. Anyway, we're not quite going yet. This is our warm-up time. This is the EPN weekly webinar, and we're not going to talk much about the sort of the business tonight. We're going to talk about some projects and some things, and hopefully you guys are going to join in, because that's the whole goal of this. Would you please do me a favor and put into the question box one if you're hearing me all right, and if you're seeing me all right. We're having a snowstorm outside here in Colorado that just started a few minutes ago. And I was out working on the ranch and thinking I needed to mow the lawn soon, and all of a sudden it starts snowing. It was predicted, so it's not like that's unexpected, but we got about a minute before we get started. Hello, Alicia. Good to have you out there. Clover VA. That's its home. That's awesome. I love the name. I have a lot of clover that comes up in my pastures. So again, put some ones in. Others of you in the audience, if you can see my webcam, if you can see the screen all right, and you can hear me okay. All right, thank you, David. Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale. All right, Mark, why don't you go ahead and start recording? Hey, everybody, welcome. This is our weekly Environmental Professionals Network webinar, and I am Wayne Dorband, and behind the glass, we've got Mark, and Mark is in Bangladesh, and I am in, as of the last hour or a little less, snowy Colorado. And today is the first of 4 days in a row that we're supposed to get some snow. And it was in the 70s and 80s over the weekend. So typical Colorado weather this time of the year. And excited to have you guys out there. I hope that I can get you busy with your fingers and typing questions and comments, or even if better, if you'd like to unmute yourself. We are going to talk projects today and talk about a little bit about the new software that we have that I've been mentioning over the last couple of weeks, which is BidNet. And we are now, EPN is a full account holder of BidNet. And in a little bit, I'm going to take the screen back from Mark, and I'm going to show you what we get from them on a regular basis, because today was the first day that we got what's called our BidNet bulletin. So the way that BidNet is going to work is that EPN is what's called a user member. And if you were to go out on the internet and look up BidNet, and I'll show you their website in just a little bit after I take the screen, and you wanted to become a member and use BidNet services, which will get you information about projects in North America that are offered by federal government, by state governments, by county governments, by city governments, by what are called quasi-governmental entity governments, any public agency. Quasi-governmental would be hospitals or irrigation services or other things of that nature. All of those kinds of projects are on a daily basis listed. We'll be getting on the average 30 to 50 a day, and the key is going to be for us to decide which of those that we want to go after, and as EPN, as an entity, and then if EPN as an entity doesn't want to go after them, then each of you, if you become members, our associate and advisor members, can also go after them as individuals, but you still then have the ability to get the entirety of the EPN membership to be team members. If you need that kind of a team member to be able to either get a project or to be able to complete a project appropriately. Remember, that's the benefit of EPN. And again, just real quickly, because some of you are new to this, Mark, why don't you just, we're going to scroll down the EPN website just a little bit, and just briefly again show you where you can get information about it if you haven't got it already. But in this next section here, this button here, and we're not going to click on it right now, but that button will give you, well, go ahead and click on it, Mark, and open it up in another tab. We'll get you to the place where you can become a free member, which is the first thing you should do. I highly recommend that you do that. You know, this is real simple. You just provide an email address, first and last name, agree to either be on an email list or not, say that you've read the terms and conditions, and you can sign up. So why don't we go back to the home page again, Mark? Scroll down a little bit further. Again, here tells you a little bit more about what EPN is, and there is a place where you can schedule a call with us to learn more about it, or again, another button to push on that you can get to that same page that we just looked at. Go ahead and scroll down just a little bit more. This next one is the one that I highly recommend that you do, which is to click and get all the details. So Mark, why don't you, we haven't opened this up in a couple of weeks. Let's just show people what this looks like. So it'll, as Mark clicks on it, it'll open up in another tab on the screen. And this is a 9-page document that is very detailed in its description of what EPN is and what it does. And again, I'm not going to go over all of this, but if Mark were to scroll down it, he would. I want you to scroll down a little bit, Mark, and just show people the pages just a little bit. But a little introduction information, what our plan is, a little bit of what our history is. Who we want to have as members. Essentially over 12 million people out there in the world that are environmental professionals, either as individuals or working for small companies. We think we're going to get a lot of people that work for big companies just because they want to do something different. They don't want to be working where they're at now. 6 kinds of members: associates, which is the bulk of that, which is environmental professionals generally; students, which are also people who are studying to become environmental professionals; service members, which are groups that would be providing services to environmental professionals: accounting, legal, secretaries, supplies, any number of others. Support members are just those people that love us, that they like to support us. Sponsors are actually clients, groups that would become clients, and we'll probably over time do a lot more private business than we do public. And then finally, the last group is ones that we're going to be hand-picking, and you certainly could get a hold of us and see if you might want to become one of these, but these are lifetime memberships for advisors, and they're going to be the leadership of EPN over time. And just a little more about each of those groups on the pages that follow, Mark, keep scrolling down. A little bit about John Millen and I, who are the founders. Again, this is easy for you to download and get. I'm just quickly showing you this. And then there's a description of each of those membership types with quite a bit of information about what you would get, what are the benefits and everything. So let's go back to the home page again, Laura. If you go down a little bit further, you could get the EPN brochure on this next section. Well, Mark, scroll back up, you passed it. And if you clicked on that, we're not going to do that right now, you could get a brochure that would tell you in a little bit more of a salesy way about what EPN is. No, Mark's opening it, so that's cool. This show, I want to really show one little section of this because I think this is a really good case study description, and it's a real life story. This happened. So this brochure was initially started to be developed in 1994, as I've talked about before. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can go back, by the way, and get all this information in previous webinars that we've done by becoming a free member. Keep going, Mark. There's a little story here I want to just talk about as we get down to it. Keep going. So again, I'm going to kind of read this because this is a perfect description of why we're forming EPN. So it's over on the right-hand side. You can go along with me. Here's a hypothetical scenario showing how EPN can benefit you in your business. Let's say you have a friend who's a general manager of a local car dealership. Again, this happened. So this is a real story. They're going to tear down their service facility and rebuild. Your friend knows that he should do some kind of an environmental study. He wishes he could ignore it, but he really can't. And you're the only environmental guru that he knows. So this happened. This was a friend of mine that did have a car dealership. He was tearing down the service facility and rebuilding it. And he knew that I was an environmental guy, so he called me. So he calls you, tells you about the situation. You're a wildlife biologist. Now, this is not what the truth is. I'm not a wildlife biologist, but this part of it is, let's say you really are. You know this project is over your head. What would you do? Well, without EPN, hopefully maybe you'd know somebody you could refer them to, but you wouldn't get any benefit from that. So, but Mark, please don't scroll right now. So, you know, you say, hey, friend, I'm affiliated. This is if you were with EPN. I'm affiliated with a firm who can give you just what the help you need. EPN, Environmental Professionals Network. So you would then get a hold of us, get a hold of our leadership, and do a call or email and describe the situation. EPN, with your help, because you're a member, would prepare a proposal describing a qualified project team. You may or may not be a member. Probably for doing an assessment of a service garage that's being torn down, your services and your knowledge as a wildlife biologist would probably not be of any value. But there would be lots of others of our EPN members who would be able to make up this team. So make up the proposal. Upon completion, you, not EPN, you would present the proposal to your friend because he knows you. He asked you to do the project. If EPN gave it to him, we'd just be competing with 5 or 6 or who knows how many other firms. But if you're giving it to him, it's very likely you're going to get the project. If EPN gets the project, you're going to earn a finder's fee for just getting it. You're going to earn a proposal development fee. And if you work on it, which in this case you're probably not as a wildlife biologist, you're going to get income from working on the project. So this becomes a win-win situation. You make some income, your friend gets a quality risk management solution at a fair price, probably considerably less than if you just went out to the environmental services industry. And it's a win-win. Without EPN, you probably would have told your friend that you couldn't do the project. There wouldn't be any finder's fee, no income for you at all. So you need to be creative. Think about your own scenarios. You've run into some of these. I know that you have. Don't let that happen again. Join EPN to become a part of this. So this brochure is something you can give out to people. You can print this. And obviously, if you're just considering this yourself, you're going to want to read it and get information from it. So now go back to the home page again, Mark. At the very bottom, you can schedule calls, another one. This is intended to be a page that outside people would be reading. Each one of these will tell the price. They'll give a click that you can go to it. I'm going to have Mark click on the associate member one. Because it's actually going to show how you get it. So this is what you would see if you were going to become an associate member, and how you would join. So before I take the screen, and I'm going to show you specifically some projects here today, and we're going to hopefully discuss them. And we're going to get 30 to 50 of these every day. And they're going to be everything you can imagine in ecological and environmental realm. And all of you are going to have a chance that you could work on these, either by finding them and making some money, by being a part of a proposal development team and making some money, or by being a part of the actual completion of the project team and make some money, okay? So I'm going to look and see if there's some questions before I take back the screen. Okay, I don't see any yet. If this is all new to you, put something in just saying, oh man, I'm not getting this. I'm confused about this. So we can talk about that more. Otherwise, I'm going to take the screen. First, before I do that, I'm going to click on my web page. Here we go. Yeah, this is where I want to be. And come back here. And then, Mark, would you allow me to take the screen? Yep, I've got it here. All right, so as I said, today, EPN became a member of BidNet. We've done research on 10 different entities out there that provide services, providing information about proposals, bids, solicitations that are out there in the public world. We've decided that BidNet's the best of those. If you were to go out and try to buy this membership yourself, it would be minimally $5,700 and could be even more than that. Instead, you don't have to buy it, EPN has it. But we've negotiated another situation. If you want to have it, and get all exactly the same information that EPN gets for your own business, and we're going to encourage you to do it, you're going to be able to get the same information for $90 a year. After a year, we're going to be entering into a longer-term relationship with BidNet, and then that number is going to go down to $75 a year. So the whole reason you're going, well, why are you having your members compete with the business? Well, we want that to happen. We don't want competition necessarily, but we believe that if our members are getting this kind of a document daily, showing these projects that otherwise they may or may not find, very likely they wouldn't find, then we believe that they're going to be wanting to get a hold of other EPN members to be on the team with them to do a particular project. So these are projects that for the first time have been listed today. These closing dates are somewhat irrelevant because you're seeing one here where it shows that this closes today. That may have been the originally stated closing date, but the only reason that it's on here is because they've modified that date to something out in the future and through an amendment. And so that's why, because we've just subscribed to this, that we're getting it for the first time. So once you have a given project, you can click on it. So I'm going to do that here for this wetland delineation. And get all the detailed information about it, including the detailed information for the proposal. And my computer's slow, as I've told you guys before. This happens to be a wetlands delineation and mitigation for Lewis County in Washington. It gives you the contact people, where they're at, their phone number, email address. There is, now we can download the solicitation notice. And we can then store these. And I've already done that with this one. And we can get all kinds of additional information from BidNet and from this unique relationship that we have. Now, we haven't had all of our training with BidNet yet. That's actually going to come next week. And once we get all of that, we're going to have a lot more that we can be able to teach you. But let's go back up and look at some of the others that are out here just today. This one's broad, so I'm not really sure what this environmental engineering services are. So let's look and see what a little bit more. This is also from Lewis County, Washington. This closing date's not stated, so who knows when that's going to be. We'll be able to connect with them and find that out. I can now add this to my BidNet executive assistant, which I'm going to learn more about in the next couple of weeks. Or next week we'll learn and be able to teach you then about it. And I'm going to say this is a high priority. I want to be reminded in 2 days. I'm going to put a little note here. Remind me about it. I would normally put more here, but I just want to show you how this works. Save it. And now you can see that it's showing that project as well as a couple others that I've already put in here for us to be potentially putting bids in for. So now we're going to go back here. These down here are ones that are just not new, but there's amendments for them. But just look at how broad this is. And we haven't given them all our keywords yet. And we're going to ask you guys for additional keywords. Annual air emissions testing and reporting, electronic waste recycling, hauling and disposal of utilities, wastewater, biosolids, debris and degreasing, asbestos abatement of a reception area. This used iPad is probably not useful. Lake and watershed action plan. That's one that is one that I'm very interested in, and I would want to be on that team if at all possible. So again, I'm putting it into the executive assistant. And just kind of showing you a little bit of this, and we're going to talk about this because I want to start to see how many of you are really wanting to get involved in projects, either as proposal development folks, as project participants, team member participants, or project finders, all different kinds of things. There's a lead hazard control for lead. And remediation. There's for range, mining and cleaning, removal of asbestos, on-call asbestos abatement removal, on-call abatement services, service construction from the pool for navigable waters, health and safety compliance support, groundwater, surface water, landfill leaching, sampling and analytical services. Almost all of these are relevant. Professional services related to stream restoration. And every day, what we'll get in this bulletin will be unique. And again, just as an EPN member, either an associate or an advisor, you can spend just $90 a year, ridiculously small number. Again, you couldn't get this for less than $5,700 otherwise. To get this identical to what I'm showing you here on a daily basis. So and then down these are our amendments. The rest of this is actually each of these individually, sort of just showing what they are in more detail. Electronic waste recycling, hauling and disposal of utility waste, biosolids, debris, degrees, asbestos abatement of a reception area, and then it gives you a little description. Lake and watershed action plan. That's for Lake Fairleigh, wherever that is. Let's see where that's at. Vermont, somewhere in Vermont. This is lead abatement. Where's this one at? IL Inc. is the issuing agency. So this one is not even public. There will be some private ones because DIVNet is so diverse, and I'm really just learning about them. And so ILS Inc. It's not a town, it's not a city. It's some kind of a quasi-governmental agency that needs lead abatement. There's the city of York in South Carolina. Range mining and cleaning. So a range would be usually a fire range, and there's a trap indoor range. So it's cleaning up those. This is in Salem, Oregon. Removal of asbestos from Edgewood Middle School, Highland Park, Illinois. one for Boston City Schools. Now, if you don't want to get nationwide coverage, and we get Canada also, you just want to have your state or your 2 or 3 states, when you become an EPM member and purchase this program for your company specifically, you and your company, you don't need, and you don't even want to do things nationally. You want to be very specific in your area. You can get it for just 3 states or even 1 state. Here's the city of Akron, Ohio. I've done a lot of work there. That's why I was curious about what this is. Trailer park and barn demolition at the Eckert Ditch. So this was just put out today, and this bid is due 4/22. And again, I could download the documents here. Environmental consulting services on navigable waters, really broad. All right, well, I think I've shown enough of this. Each one of these are little, my executive assistant, just different things that I've put on here. So I want to open this up to the group through questions and see what questions you have, and then start to talk about some of these projects. No, BidNet is not global, Doug. It is North America. There are not global resources, I believe, of this type. As we start to do work in other countries, we're going to probably have to get the same kind of a service for other countries. And the more developed countries, it's probably fairly easy to get that. But, we get less developed countries, Haiti or Dominican Republic, who knows what they have for public projects in less developed countries. That's all I see right now for new questions. If you don't mind, either put it in the Q&A box or unmute yourself, or ask us to unmute you. We can. Tell us about what kinds of projects you'd like to see that EPN could help you with. You specifically, you and your business. Yeah, and Doug, I understand you're going to be more likely a service member. Your expertise is not to do asbestos abatement or any of these others. You provide product development for people in these businesses. We can add keywords that will allow allow our searches to include the kinds of projects that you do as a manufacturing consultant for many business segments, like automotive, consumer, medical, commercial, as you say here in your comments. And we can change what we're having BidNet search for literally as often as we want to do it. So the way it's set up right now, you're not going to find any projects that would fit you, but we can add keywords for manufacturing consultant, or whatever is appropriate for what it is that you do. And we're going to want to be doing that. So by next week, we're going to have picked out some of these projects. And this call will be almost entirely to discuss putting the proposals together for it. And if people that are on it that are already members, then they can start to become involved and participate. So again, this is not a typical e-webinar where it's a speaker giving new information about a really cool topic. We had one of those yesterday. We'll have another one next Monday, and we're getting to where we're moving up to 2 to 3 a week, and hope to get that up to 6 or 7 a week. But that's not what this is about. This EPN webinar is to really show you how to get involved and ask you if you want to get involved in a brand new company, EPN. Some of you, just because of what you've done with us before, have already been offered this kind of, been offered associate membership. So, yeah, Zeb asked the question, is BidNet only in the US? Is there much we can do from abroad yet? Yeah, we talked about this, by the way. Zeb was one of our speakers last week. He's amazing. The connections that you have with the governmental aid folks that you know, and we'll do searches. As we get members of countries, we'll do searches to find out what is the equivalent of BidNet in those countries. So in your case, I know we'll find you big enough and has enough, it's not a third world country like some could be, where it might be a little more difficult. My guess is there's an equivalent to BidNet in New Zealand. And we're going to find that. And as we have members that want to be doing projects in those countries, we're going to find that for them. Now, for you, Zeb, I would imagine that another benefit of being an EPN member would be that you're over time going to want EPN members, probably even some of our student members, to become people who will be helping you do what you want to be doing to make the planet better with all the amazing things you're up to on your farm. So to find the people that would be, I'm calling them interns, you have different names for them, but I believe we're going to have members, lots of them, that you're going to be able to choose from who want to do projects with you. So you wear two hats. You can kind of be a sponsor type member where you have projects. You would be somebody we'd be looking for solutions to help complete them for you. And then you've got services yourself that you're going to provide. Any member has to pay to get the BidNet service, Doug, yes. BidNet is only going to be available at the price that we get, that we're describing, for our associate members. And you're in a rare situation that you're already an associate member because of some things you've offered and because you attended one of our first 2 webinars, of which there were a number of people that did, and we've made them members. But most people are going to be buying their membership. We thought about including it within the associate membership fee, but we decided not to do that because, again, we found that out there, if you just don't pay at least something for something you're going to get in the world, you don't do anything with it. Most people, I'm not saying you individually, but people in general. And so we didn't want it to be available for all associates. We want people to very specifically make the decision that they want to have. So, Zeb, you and I talked about it. If there's a way that you could help us figure out who would be the right people in New Zealand to get us information about who the BidNets are for New Zealand, that would be helpful. Now, we can do our own research to find them, but it would be really helpful to find if you've got some inside information to help us with that. So like I said, I don't really have much more of a presentation for today, guys. So this is sort of open for you to throw things in. I'm going to prompt you for things that we really would like to know. But, you know, put in there what are some key words, some things we should be telling BidNet for project types that you would want that we would do. Mark, why don't you take back the screen and show again, go to the free member product for Alan. Yes, absolutely. I will unmute you. Alan's been an amazing friend of Pete for a long time, was an instructor for us. We're actually preparing his course to be taught, so we're going to be marketing that and helping Heat make some money, and him also. So we will unmute you, Alan. All right, you are unmuted.
Hey, Wayne, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Very good. So I've been crazy busy, but I've been trying to keep a little eye on what you're doing with EPN. It's kind of a very interesting idea and has, I think, some interesting promise. So one of my questions was, I've seen how the environmental consulting game is played. There's a lot of companies out there who make their dollar by helping clients figure out how to just skate by on the least amount possible of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess, what will EPN's strategy be in working in that kind of environment? And I guess part of that goes to what's the differentiator besides cost? Is there going to be, given the background coming out of EAT and everything else, what's the mindset on trying to drive and allow customer base to do more than just the skate by with the minimum and give them very cost competitive, but also very regenerative solutions instead of the standard off the shelf environmental consulting that they might get from one of the big name players that would charge them a large amount of money?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alan. So I think you're asking philosophical, but very important about, how's EPN going to live in a world where sometimes to win business, you've got to be willing to give up some of your ethics. At this point, I'm going to say we're not going to be willing to do that. I've never done it as an environmental consultant for 40 years, and I'm not going to begin to do it now. So if I'm going to be involved with this, I'm the one who founded it along with John Millen, we won't do that. So if that means we're going to lose sometimes, Alan, for those circumstances, those situations, then we're just going to lose. Or hopefully we'll figure out what those situations are, and we won't even waste our time trying to get involved with them, to prepare proposals for them or to get them. I've spent my career when I work on a project, having the very first goal always is to make sure that the solution improves the planet. And if the client doesn't really care about improving the planet, instead, all they care about is getting environmental regulators off their backs and meeting some minimal sort of requirement, I think the simple answer is those are not the projects we're going to want to do.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right answer. I was looking at it thinking, especially in the beginning, you're going to have way more projects than you could ever throw a stick at, And a part of the whole thing, if you're going to establish the credibility of EPN of doing something other than just being a low-cost competitor to the big guys that you go to if you just want to another but cheaper option of skating by and getting the environmental regulators off your back. The key is to hire the right clients in the beginning, the ones that are really looking for regenerative solutions, not just boy, I've got to get compliance. That's all I'm interested in. And I think that would be part of it. So I guess it's like that question of how do you search for and find and connect with the right client so you can hire the right clients?
Yeah, no, and you're stating it. Notice everybody what Alan's saying there. Hiring the client. I'll give an example, Alan, in the ecological space of a situation that happened about 2 years ago, where I fired a client, and I can't talk and give the very detailed specifics, but I can give enough generality. And this happened to be a client of Mark Shepard's and I, so we were partners. So I was dealing with the aquatic side, and Mark was dealing with the terrestrial side. And this was a high net worth individual in the South. The location is not that important, but that had a ranch, a very sizable ranch. He wanted us to provide him with a design for a pond system, and then the surrounding watershed, which he had control over because his property was large enough, that would meet his use needs. And his use needs, he made it really clear, was he wanted to be able to enjoy these ponds for swimming, for fishing. He really wanted to develop a potential fish population that he could have recreational fishing. He wanted clean water to believe in. Well, as we put together the front end of this for him, for whatever reason, he dramatically changed his mind and said, I really don't care what quality of water that I let drain out of my system and into my neighbors' properties. And he showed that his attitude was very personal and really didn't care broadly about the planet. And he said, so I want you to modify the design so that it really doesn't clean up the water as it's leaving the lower of my ponds. We had designed almost a catchment pond at the end of the system to get some of the waste that would be being developed by increased fish densities in the ponds that were above it. And he wanted us to take that lower pond out. And he said, if you aren't willing to design that for me, then I'm just going to go find somebody else. And we just said, go find somebody else. And this guy, it would have been a very good project for us. So we bailed, we fired him in a very early stage. That's been really rare, by the way. I could give 10 examples of projects where clients were the opposite of him, and that we found as we began to work more and more with them that they were truly caring about making things better from an ecological, regenerative sort of mentality, even though that word regenerative was not one that was used until very recently, as you know, in a very broad way. And I love it that people are using it today. So I don't know if that sort of answers the question, Alan, but we are going to have way more projects initially, at least than we have members to be able to do. So I think it's going to be fairly easy as long as we stick to our ethics and we don't accept projects that will, I won't say force, but that will give us the ability to be less than appropriate in the way that we complete them.
So that brings up an interesting point, which is there a formal statement of ethics that EPN will adopt and ask for the members who are working to adopt in terms of the way work is done and the outcome of work?
The current agreement that we're asking people to sign once they become members and are going to be a part of a team. We've said before, we don't have to have them do that until they get to that point. I think does have some of that language in it, but not enough, Alan. You're bringing up a great point. And that's actually not at all hard for us to add. And then we probably ought to more vocally our marketing materials, and we can do that. And so I love it. Thank you for bringing that up. We obviously have, we're not thinking of everything here yet. So this is why these calls are going to be awesome, because just that thought's a really good one. I think it's going to be fairly easy to do in the agreements that we have our members that are going to be on proposal development teams and project teams to agree to. But right now, I don't think it probably goes to the extent that it needs to. So you raise a good point.
Yeah, that may be a.
How's your Huntsville project going?
I've kind of wrapped that one up. I've got a massive project I'm doing in Central Alabama right now that is something that I would have to kind of describe a little bit offline. It's going to become public a little bit later on this year, but it has to do with a massive project we're doing with a indigenous people group, and
cool.
So probably one of the most interesting projects going on in North America right now. It's quite an amazing project.
Very cool. Well, I'll call you. I'll get a hold of you separately, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say probably there's a few things, especially on what EPN is doing, to be good for us just to chat about on the side. If you have a little thoughts that I've had, for you.
By the way, I noticed in the audience several of our EAT advisory board members. Why don't you guys let us either unmute you and let you tell a little bit about your thoughts, because EPN is an EAT project, and EAT is going to benefit financially from what EPN does, and I hope reputationally and otherwise. But I'm not going to mention names, but if you know who you are and you're out there, I'd love to hear some of your opinions. And you're on here. So, and you can do it just by typing too, but I'd love to unmute you if you wouldn't mind. Alan, I was curious too, how has the pandemic affected what you're doing in the regenerative space? Not necessarily what you're doing in your day-to-day business, but has it affected you at all, or if it has, is it positive, negative? I will tell you, and I've told the whole group, it really hasn't affected my business or our business at all. Maybe it's even been positive, but there certainly hasn't been a real negative effect, because we're dealing with an industry, the real estate industry, which is still explosive in this country. I don't think it's going to remain like that forever, but it is right now. So.
Yeah, it's actually been, what we've seen interestingly is that it's made a lot of people much more aware of food sovereignty and food security. It's made people much more aware of the tenuousness of certain global supply chains, the need for community level resilience. And I think in some ways people just slowing down and has had people thinking a little bit more about broader quality of life issues. And it's been, and that's really a lot of the driver for what people start thinking about in terms of regenerative design, resilient design. So there's been a lot of interest, and I'm seeing a upsurge in interest among, we'll say, the college age and a little bit younger as well. They're starting to really, I think, latch on to the idea that some of the things we've been doing for the last couple of decades won't continue to happen the way they have been. They're just not sustainable, and that they are going to, that their generation is going to have to adopt very different looking solutions. And so they're looking for those and asking questions around about those solution spaces now.
Very cool. Well, I've had the similar observations from folks. I'm going to show another project that literally didn't exist on my radar until 2 days ago, but things have moved very fast in the last couple of days. And it's one that if it occurs, and I believe it is going to, it's going to take 20 team members. And Alan, you could actually be a part of this. So I'm going to show the location. And so I'm going to pull up a Google map here and put it on my screen. You know what? Yeah, I'd rather you took the screen, Mark, because that way then I don't need to mess with it. So why don't you take the screen back? Yeah, good point, Mark. It would be easier if you had it. Well, where you're at now is actually a good one, because why don't you click, and I'd like to show people again the profile form, because it's got this whole list of keywords, and I'd like you guys all, if you would, to think about additional keywords we should be adding there. So click on the profile forms marked down below, and yeah, there we go. And open that up. I've shown this the last several weeks, but I want you to see it again. And then if you've got keywords, really like to add them. Mark, are you not able to get that open? Just click there on it. There we go. I'm echoing for some reason. I don't know whether it's throughout or if I'm just the one hearing it. How much is the per month cost for EPN BidNet? First place, we couldn't buy it by the month, and no one can, Doug. We had to pay the annual fee, and that's I'm not going to give you the exact number. It's really not right now everyone's business, but it's more than $3,000 a year that we're paying, and we're getting a very discounted price. And you can't pay it monthly. That's not something that they allow. So EPN is paying $3,000. If you went to BidNet with your company, or anybody did with their company, I guarantee, I know this, they told us this is one of the reasons we agreed to buy and do what we're doing, that you would be quoted $5,600 at the very least. That'd be the lowest number. So scroll down, Mark, and show where it shows the whole list of what I call keywords, just a little further down. And I'm just showing you this. You guys can look on this yourself, because most of you are probably already. Here we go. So again, the first part of this is all alphabetical, but we need more keywords, because if we add more, it means more projects we're going to learn about from BidNet. Thanks, Doug, about not hearing an echo. I think it is just on my end with the phone. So, Mark, I want you to, so that's where it's at, everybody. You can pull those up. Yes, you can, Doug. That's what I was saying earlier. I'm sorry, you weren't on the front end, but yes, we're going to be offering to EPN associate members the same information that EPN gets, and that's governed by keywords. Instead of paying as much as $5,700 a year, you will pay $90 a year. It's a huge benefit. And you'll get the same information. You'll get a daily email with projects that your company could then potentially do. I think it's a huge benefit. So, you know, one of the things we really hope we'll get numbers. Yeah, $90 a year is huge. It's a great number. So, Mark, the next site I want you to bring up is go to Google Maps, and I'm going to give you and pull up Haiti, which is an island, or the country of Haiti on an island. I'm going to show you something that's there. I think, Mark, I think we're seeing Bangladesh there now, and India. Oh, it'll come. Yeah, it'll take a little bit. There we go. And yeah. All right. Now go down. Okay. You see that mark? You see where it says Les Quais? You're right down there. You're going to need to blow this up more. The island that you can see right down by Les Quais. So it's down lower part. You're going to need to blow it up more, Mark. So there's an island. You see, that's not that one. That's Gonave Island. So it's down lower, Mark. Lower. You got to bring now move over. No, Mark, you were right by it before. I should have done this. I should have kept the screen. I know right where it is. By the way, that shows traffic right now on roads. No, it's not traffic. Mark, take it farther out now. You're never going to find it at this. You're going to get us farther away. So you see Les Quais, Lescays, Les Quais. It's down in the left-hand side of your screen. No, Mark, don't move it. Don't move the screen. Put your cursor when you find Les Quais. You were close to it. Go left with your cursor. You see Port-au-Prince? Keep going left. It's to the left of that. Farther left. Farther left. No, don't blow it up, Mark, please. You're not. Now we're seeing. No, that is not the island that I want. I said that before. Mark, give me back the screen. I'll get it. Mark and I have been working together 8 years, and I know you saw that I was getting frustrated with him there. But it's sometimes language, and Mark's amazing. But okay, you guys should have my screen now. I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to put in Haiti. Just a second, I got it. The reason you're not seeing it on my webcam well is I got to reach over to my keyboard. Come on. Mark's computer's a lot faster than mine, and that's why I wanted to try to have him do this. Anyway, there's an island. You guys have probably seen it, and then Mark just didn't get to it. That 3 longtime friends of mine, business associates, just bought. And we're going to be designing a regenerative life situation for that island. And it's an island that's just about the size of Manhattan. It is 22 square miles. All right, it's this island right here. I'm going to blow this up now a little bit. So these 3 individuals have bought this island. right here. So we could look at it from a satellite perspective. And because they now own it, they manage it, and we're going to be able to develop. There's the rail. This is the airport. It's got a 2,600 meter strip. We're going to extend that to make it to where any airport, any airplane in the world can land on it. It's a beautiful, untouched, really, from a pollution perspective. There are about 8,000 people who live on it who have no income. They are totally sustenance farmers, and many, there's a very high level of poverty. And obviously we don't want to go in there and change a lifestyle, but we have the ability to now essentially create a long-term future for this island that is regenerative. There are 2 current resorts on it. Both of them are located up here in this area. This is called the Blue Lake here. And Alan, there's going to be all kinds of needs for a number of the things that you've done and showed us for sustainable solar, for example, ecological solar. Anyway, I'm still learning more and more about this all the time, but it just shows you an image of it.
Yeah, that's sort of, if you were designing at that scale, you would really need to do a full system. I mean, like a whole ecosystem study of the island.
That's correct. That's what the start of this is going to be. Yeah.
And then a cultural study of the island and figure out what's appropriate to do there.
Yeah, and it's about 6 miles offshore from Haiti. When Bill Clinton tried to buy this, I guess this is the word I have, about 10 years ago, and wasn't able to. So right now, getting into it involves flying into Port-au-Prince or even in the DR, and then getting down to Les Cayes here, and then taking a boat over to it, or flying into it with a small plane. But you're right, Alan. The very first step that I told them, here's an example. I told them that I wouldn't get involved in this unless we had a chance, that we used the right kind of ecological principles. And they're not fighting that at least yet. And there's where, at some point, if they were to say, well, wait a minute, we don't want to really do that, and even though that is what is the right thing to do ecologically, their intent here is to turn this into a place that high net worth individuals have, a limited number of living locations, because what I'm told is just off the charts beautiful and untouched, really. So. Yeah,
I can believe that. But, I actually, this is what I said, I'll have to talk to you offline on it. But what I've been working on is how to attack projects of this scale in a regenerative fashion, because it requires entire teams of design professionals working together in a very specific way in order for that to happen. Because what you get into is the problem of a lot of the design professionals you would typically engage with: civil engineers, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, power people, and so on and so forth. They're very much focused in their own discipline, and therefore they tend to create designs that are optimized piecewise in silos, but not optimized in a systems fashion, and therefore they'd never come up with a truly regenerative outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So that's part of what I've been working on here recently is the framework for working with teams of professionals that would be working at this size in order to design a project this scale if you wanted to do it properly.
Well, you might be the perfect team member for this. So. All right, well, we are over time, everybody. I was worried about that we even have enough material to get to the end, but unless you've got other questions and comments, if anybody has them, if anybody else wants to be unmuted, I think it's probably it for us for the night. I'll wait just a little bit, see if anybody else has some thoughts, comments, questions. You're more than welcome, Doug, by the way, by saying thank you there at the end. Yeah, Alicia, I think it's going to be a great project, and it'll be one that, as Alan just said, I think it's a very large team of people, and at least at this point, all the signs are is that these people have the right money to do this. Again, I think that the challenge with projects like this is a lot of times people will just have enough to kind of do the front end, and then they want to cut all kinds of corners as they move forward. But it doesn't sound like that's the case with this group at this point. Yeah, I think you're right, Alicia, about it's a much larger scale than what Gary's working on in Panama. But yeah. Yeah, this is rainforest area, everybody, in terms of its weather. And because this is on the Pacific side of Haiti. I have been and worked on a project that we even talked a little bit about related to EAT over in the Dominican Republic. I'll scroll out on this real quick just to show you the location. By the way, as you're aware, Haiti's not the easiest country to work in at times from a political perspective. Sorry about my computer so slow that it takes a while sometimes. All right, so the Haiti's border is right here, this red line. This is the Dominican Republic. And project I know I've talked about, but is over here at Punta Cana. And a family that I had met in Canada bought 80-acre property, and we were going to work on it there. And they ended up having some personal things happen that they ended up having to sell the place. But while they had it, Bill and Melinda Gates flew in there with a helicopter with their kids. This was probably 6-7 years ago, and looked at the project. And I have a thank you card from Melinda that literally says, "We wish you the best. We know you're just getting started here, but you're following the right direction." Something that I've kind of cherished since I got it, because it's clear that people like that appreciate these kinds of projects. And Bill Gates, it's not the kind of thing that he could do. So, by the way, just so you see it, that's Cuba right there, so you get an idea of where it is. That's Jamaica, and go down one more level. Puerto Rico is the very next right here. That's Puerto Rico. You get a perspective of these islands are a lot bigger than you kind of think, because Puerto Rico, which is an American territory, is a pretty big island. But so any other questions or comments? Alan, thank you for unmuting and coming on. I'll give you a call, and we'll talk about some stuff. Mark, thank you. Mark, do you see any other questions? I have moved them out of the way so I could show these maps. Well, no, actually there is one here. Alicia put a couple more in. We need to put it together a team of the mission goals and action items. Who would be the potential partners for such a project? What kinds of funding commitments are there for the projects? Well, they've got all the funding, and again, that still needs to be validated. You don't ever start a big project in any field without knowing that the funding is there. Who would be potential partners? Depends what you mean by partners for the whole project. I mean, they're looking at, you know, Richard Branson, for one, is a name that they've thrown out. Richard's own island, and Richard's Island, and you've probably all seen pictures of that, is very close to theirs. It's somewhere over here in this same area. Remember, we were right here. It's where that island is. And the island's called the Cow. It's actually, that's not what anybody calls it, but that's the old name of it. And it's where the pirate, Morgan, Captain Morgan, it's where he would hang out when he was around in the 1600s. But Richard Branson is somebody that is already committed to be involved in this project from a big picture. And there's lots of high net worth folks like that would be the people that would be involved. Would you call them partners? No, not really. They're going to be occupants more than anything. But well, Alicia, I don't know about the United Nations for an endorsement. I'm sure eventually you do that. My experience has been, if you want to get a private project done, you don't go to the United Nations. You do that after you got the project done. You go to the United Nations, and all of a sudden you take what's a 5-year project and make it a 50-year project before you get it done. So. Yeah, one of the team members for that project has just come on, everybody, and he said that he'd love to spend some more time. And Jake, you should probably come on sometime, and literally we'll just do a webinar specifically related to your amazing project. So I was just telling them broadly. I didn't give any real details, but about a group that literally just been talking to recently that's going to be doing an amazing regenerative living project on an island. So, all right, everybody, I think we're going to call it for the night. I've been doing all kinds of things. The snow has stopped here at my place, which is a good sign, but it's going to come back. Alan, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Alicia, as always, for your very insightful comments and questions. And if we don't see anything else, I think we'll call it for the night, Mark. Thanks, everybody. It's been a fun one. Go ahead and take us out, Mark.